and I listened to another podcast you were on. I'm like, who is this guy?
Jason he's a very established writer in Hollywood, right? You've written like some big stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us what you've written.
It was on Desperate Housewives.
Perfect.
For that run. Worked on Graceland.
Awesome.
On USA. Grey's Anatomy.
Nice.
And
how'd you get in? How'd you get into, I guess, Hollywood? What got you into Hollywood?
Like, didn't go to school to film school or have that kind of background or contacts to reach out to. So I would sneak onto the lot.
Welcome, everybody, to Born Broke with Mike Hofarth. And today we have Jason Ganzel. Take it away, Mike.
What's up, Jason? Thanks for being here, brother.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. Hear your story, share some good stuff, hopefully for anybody that's watching here.
Sure.
Yeah. So, usually when we jump these things off, I always like to start from the beginning. Like, tell us, like, where you grew up. Do you have, like, siblings, your parents? How, like where do you come from?
Grew up in Reno, Nevada. Only child.
Okay.
Adopted at a couple months old.
Awesome.
And so my parents are from the Midwest.
Awesome.
And there was never a day that I found out I was adopted, not looking anything like them.
Yeah.
Just always understood, I guess. But was in Reno and then played college basketball at
Nice.
Chico State.
Awesome.
And,
awesome. What position? College. I'm a basketball guy too.
Okay. Point guard. Yeah, I saw the shoes.
Oh, dude.
Your
big shoe fanatic.
base camp business partner said you were giving those to me for doing the
Okay.
podcast, which I thought was so nice.
Fantastic.
of you.
Both pairs. They're yours.
Both, I think. Yeah.
They're yours, both.
And the
Don't worry
bike,
about it.
Not the bike.
Ooh, the
Yeah.
bike's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. The bike will be a tough one. I had that since I was a little kid, so
That's
that one's
amazing.
tough. But
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah,
Reno, so Reno college basketball point guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Point guard.
Yep.
Cool. And then did you play all 4 years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Which freshman, sophomore, junior, or
Yeah,
which?
freshman, sophomore, junior.
What happened to senior?
I don't know. I just fell. I had an internship at Payne Weber.
Oh, wow.
One summer, and thought I wanted to be a broker after college and was in business, and then had this internship, and it felt like a great opportunity to see what that would be like, because during that summer I was hired to be a broker's assistant.
Oh, wow.
Which is what I was hoping for after college, and so it was like this interesting way to see what that was like, and I'm so glad I did that, because I definitely didn't like it.
Okay.
And,
yeah, that's what's good with an
Went
internship.
back to, and went back and finished, and then by that point it was just getting through school and out.
College wise.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit. Like, let's start from the beginning, because as you probably know, right? Like, it's trying to like, people that are watching or kids that are watching, trying to like be relatable to them. So
Sure.
I'm going to ask you, like, what was your first job and how did you get it and why?
I growing up played basketball at this club by our house, and the owner of a casino, one of the casinos in Reno, played in a game, and so I parked cars at his casino.
Nice.
In
How long did you do
which
that?
was amazing.
That's your first gig?
Every summer, kind of coming home from school, and all my friends worked there, and so it was this amazing job. And I'm a huge car person and love cars, so
Nice.
it was like this perfect blend of working with friends, being able to drive all these cool cars, and then walking home with cash at the end of every shift.
Nice.
and
What was the
tips.
coolest car? I got to ask. What's the coolest car?
911. I'm a huge Porsche
guy?
fan and love
I think
everything about it. But
He and I were separated at birth, I think. I'm a big 911 fan.
yeah.
I park cars as well.
Okay.
I love valet.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons you just announced.
Are we related? I was adopted,
Okay.
so maybe
I don't know. And you said
your
Midwest
parents
earlier.
your parents
Yeah.
may have some.
We're going to have to check that out.
Yeah, we gotta check it out. No, it's always. I think like the 9/11 thing is always just like the shape of it and the
Sexy.
history of it and all the all that stuff that goes
Nice.
into it when you're into them. But
Nice. So that was your first job.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, where did you go?
and then was in school and after school had a sales job.
Okay.
And just knew I wanted to write, and always felt like that was the thing I most kind of gravitated towards. And talked to my parents, who are the poster of adoption and support and these amazing people, and kind of told me all the reasons why I shouldn't go to LA and try and be a writer,
right,
as they were helping me come down here.
Yeah.
You know, and so
For everyone watching,
yeah.
you know, Jason he's a very established writer in Hollywood, right? You've written like some big stuff, right?
Yeah.
Tell us what you've written.
It was on Desperate Housewives.
Perfect.
That run. Worked on Graceland. Was
Awesome.
On USA. Grey's Anatomy.
Nice.
On.
And how'd you get in?
How'd
How'd you get into, I guess, Hollywood? What got you into
I
Hollywood?
didn't go to school, to film school, or have that kind of background or contacts to reach out to. So I would sneak onto the lot.
Oh, you did.
And kind of acknowledge security, because I felt like if you were trying to sneak on, they would notice you more.
Yeah.
But if you acknowledge that they're there and weren't trying to get away with it,
Yeah.
and we're on the phone and just kind of
you
waved
didn't
and went, and then and half the time people would get upset and like, you can't be here, why are you passing out red, you know, and would get asked to leave, and the other half was like, oh, that's cool, I'll take that, and managed to get on a couple pilots.
Nice.
As a PA.
Nice.
And set PA, and first job was on the Olsen Twins.
No kidding.
Sitcom as a set PA, and
Really?
so for me, really quickly was able to go to film school with those jobs and
Nice.
and understand the kind of inner workings and how it all fits together, but on the ground, kind of running.
Cool.
So it was amazing.
And you're producing too?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. And then I guess you snuck onto these lots.
Yeah.
You did the old cell phone trick. Would you
Classic.
recommend that?
100%. But that's not my advice I'm giving.
Yeah. It's the hustle.
interesting.
It's the hustle,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the hustle, and I think if you asked 100 people in my position how they started, it'd all be different.
Oh, 100%.
And so to imply that there's a way or advice of how to do it, it's just so random. And I think the thing that I've benefited from is that mentality of having to sneak on it and that hustle.
Right.
And I think that's what got me kind of my first breaks, even, was that mentality. And then since then, just that constant work that you have to do that is self-motivated,
Yeah.
consistently over and over again, I think has kind of served me well, I would say.
Right on.
sure.
It's stuff we talk about here, right? It's the heart, it's the hustle, it's the perseverance, it's the never giving up, right? Never taking no for an answer, so to speak, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, how do you overcome those things? I mean, I would ask you, along the way from valet, if you will, all the way to where you are present day, like, what would you say was your biggest obstacle, like in your in your rise, if you will?
I mean, I would say opportunity to do the thing you want to do is just, it's so competitive, and there are so many people coming here from film school every year, and it's so competitive. But I don't know. I feel like it's taking all the variables that I can control out of that difficulty, and then whatever happens outside of that is going to happen.
Right.
And you just have to be able to roll with that. But I would say how competitive it is was the kind of biggest obstacle, I think.
Is there a certain way you would was there a certain thing that you would do to stand out in that crowd?
For sure. I don't know. I would ask a writer to, and then all the pilots every year that were bought were on a CD disc. But I would ask writers to ask their agents to send one over, and I would read every pilot every year that was bought, just to understand what stuff was being bought.
So you're doing the research. You were
For
really
sure.
you were fully committed to,
Yeah.
to learning as much of the craft as you could.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think playing catch up and feeling like I didn't go to film school, so
gotcha.
it was using the stuff I had at my disposal to learn and get better, and kind of constantly try to improve. And then also just taking pride in just my mentality in terms of how I worked. And it's interesting, the first writing kind of break happened as I was helping the PA stock the fridge because he was out getting lunch, and probably out of boredom, but just would stock the labels of the soda all facing the same direction But this writer was like, I can't wait to see you do the job you actually want to do if you take that much pride in the worst job in town as an assistant. You know, it's and so then it kind of, and he has to read my stuff.
Yeah.
And that was like this kind of storm of that making its way up to the showrunner and got my first writing.
I was going to ask you what your
that.
break was.
Yeah. Desperate Housewives was the first show where I was asked to write one. And up to that point was the showrunner's assistant. After it's like 5 years of PA work and script writer, script assistant, and writer's PA. And then I guess just there paid very close attention to what was expected of the writers, hoping to get an opportunity, but never pushing for it. And so when it came, it felt appropriate, and it wasn't that I'd been asking for it. It was just really trying to do a good job without asking for more than was appropriate.
Right.
And then, so got that first script there, and then as a freelance episode, and then was hired a month after that process.
Did you ever, did anyone ever tell you along the way you couldn't be a writer?
Oh, for sure.
They did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think most
How'd you
people,
react to that?
I don't know. It was
Did it get you down?
Oh, for sure. Like, I think going 5 years of being an assistant, a lot of people are like, well, what are you going to do? Because it's you're up against like so much, like I said, competition, and it's being in the right place at the right time for that opportunity. And then got my real estate license as a backup. I was like, okay, what am I going to do?
Always have a plan B?
Yeah, a little bit, but then also not really being available to a plan B either. And just being like, well, that's not really an option. I'm not really thinking about that, because that takes time away from me preparing for this opportunity that hopefully will come. So I feel like if you stick with it and you have a good mindset and an attitude and are doing the work, that you may get a shot.
Right.
And then it's just knowing that you then have to deliver on it. And staying is actually harder than getting that, I think, initial break.
Yeah. Is that from like a mental standpoint of like,
so.
like
just
persevering, like pushing through?
Yeah. I think,
like when people are trying to beat you down, there's like everybody and their mother, so to speak, is trying to do the same thing. And I can relate to that. I mean, it's funny. You just told the funny story about the sodas all facing out.
Right.
That's how I got my break.
Really?
I'm not even messing with you. I talk about that in one of our episodes that will be coming up. Is literally I did the same thing. Every single day I would pull everything out of the refrigerator and put it all back in, and I would line everything up like this.
Fun. Maybe that's the
solution.
Secret. That's the advice.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's such a funny thing because it's random.
Deal with the fridge. It is random, but I think it's just also the humility to take the time and care into a thing that doesn't necessarily benefit you.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And maybe it's basketball. It's like you said, growing up on teams and having that team mentality and knowing that you bring something to it, but not everything to it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Like in sports,
right?
I mean, I attribute a lot of stuff to being an athlete.
Yeah,
you know, I wasn't the best in academics by any means, but at the end of the day, I learned how to, you know, collaborate and lead and all these and lose and keep going and pushing to win. And I learned all these things I didn't know I was learning. Yeah, you know,
and just managing and getting along with a bunch of different types of personalities, and there's a lot of that in this business, as you know, and it equips you, I think, to not get pulled into that, because you just have this thing every week, like a game where you have to perform and do your job.
Right.
And so I think sports has definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on a lot of good things. You touched on, you know, research, preparation, you know, the will to want to continue to stand out. I think the refrigerator thing,
so funny,
as silly as it sounds, it might be details.
Yeah.
You know, it shows people around you how detail oriented you are, because it's such a simple task.
Yeah.
Yet most people won't take the time to do it.
Yeah. And I guess like that everything's important too, even the fridge.
Yeah.
where, you know, I don't know.
I mean, my belly tells me what's important. You know what I mean?
It's looking a lot. It's looking a lot better.
I'm working on it, but you know, it's like what do they say? The fastest way to a man's heart is his belly, or something like that. So,
True.
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, where do you go from here? Like you're at the top of the game, aren't you? You're writing.
That's the thing. I feel like there's always more to do. I think.
Nice.
I don't know. I've been really deliberate about hitting every rung of the ladder, I think, and feel like in this business, you see people with so much success that are so talented and good at what they do that ladder is kind of infinite as you're going. And so I feel like there's really no end of the goals. You know, it's just like constantly kind of trying to take each job or each show as its own challenge, but then also wanting to have my own shows and create shows and
nice.
And have that. But so I guess it's like smaller, the next step as opposed to that overall picture, which I think has been my approach from start. It's like, yeah, I have this end goal of being a writer, but in front of me, what's the first thing I can do?
Right.
It's like, well, I need to get access. I need to get a job in that field, and I'm probably not going to get a writer job right off of nothing. And so,
are you a planner? Do you
funny
sketch out your plans? Because I mean, when you're writing, I'm not a writer, but you know, you're writing all these pages, right? So I mean, do you have like a plan or a ladder of growth for yourself?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you set goals?
And I think way more so in that than my personal life, or I don't know. I think maybe all of my attention to those details are thrown into the job. But yeah, I think I'm very deliberate about all of the things that go into it, and very conscious of jobs I'm taking and how it helps the next job, or how it rounds out my resume to have multiple types of shows. So I can be available to write more shows. And I don't know if it's the Chico State non-film education, but it to me, writing, I've always been so interested in people and love different aspects and details of people and how they fit together. And so whether it's a superhero show or a doctor show or a cop show, it's like, that's kind of wardrobe.
Right.
And the people on the poster and how they interact with each other is the show, and what people, I think, connect to is attaching to characters. And so I'm really deliberate about trying to pick different types of shows, because I like the character aspect of it, as opposed to just being someone who's a superhero type writer, you know, and we do kind of get put in those categories.
Yeah.
So that's kind of there's definitely an approach to it, I think.
I mean, that's kind of what we're attempting to do here, right? It's trying to make those people that come on and actually talk to us, like yourself, right, is make you, you know, more human or more relatable to somebody that feels less fortunate, or somebody that's you know, doesn't have access or opportunity, or doesn't think they do, right? And say, you know what, I was adopted, and he's in Hollywood writing some of the biggest stuff. If he can do it, I can do it, right?
And I think it's having that blind optimism that why not me? And I think when you have that attitude, it gets away of all that negative kind of self-talk and doubt. And even with that mentality, it's so daunting. Right. But I think if you just keep your head down, eventually, in whatever you want to do, can have an opportunity to do it. But you also then have to put in that work to back it up. So when you do get that shot, it's like, this person's amazing. It's like,
you're ready.
Yeah, you're ready for it. Because I think with that mentality, you'll get an opportunity, but you have to deliver then.
Right. What drives you? Why do you wake up in the morning? Like, what is the thing that like really drives you?
I think family, like the kids. I have 2 daughters, and
how old?
10 and 12.
Cool.
So it's amazing kind of time, and I don't know, just I guess showing them what hard work does and the benefits of it, and keeping a good attitude, even though you're up for a job and don't get it. and then it's like how you respond to those moments. I think so. That's I think helps kind of steer me, in terms of providing that example, I guess. But
yeah. And we got vacuums in the background. See,
break.
this is
This is our vacuum sponsor.
yeah. Our
Sponsored by
vacuum
Dyson.
sponsor.
Yeah, the Dyson
that'd be great if they
3.0.
just send some Dysons over, though.
Hey, maybe.
For saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is our Dyson sponsor. Look, this is how organic it is.
Yeah.
Like we
No,
actually have
yeah.
the cleaning folks here on a Friday,
Yeah,
and they're and we're trying to tape our show, and they're running their Dysons.
Well, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So if I can just guess.
Yeah.
So when you said you're an athlete and you started getting your first job, one of the bigger jobs, and how you got to the next level, you're like, oh, I was doing all the research.
Yeah.
Did that come from watching film in college or understanding that you have to put in that extra time
I think
to be prepared? And then you said like you're ready.
Yeah.
You
I think it definitely played in to preparation for being successful in sports, but also having to overcompensate for a lack of size and speed and skill, but was always working harder. Like this in college, and it was really a big moment in terms of an example of what it takes. I think is this senior guard when I was a freshman would come like wake me up at 3 a.m, and he had a key to the gym, and he'd be like, let's go, and he wouldn't turn on the lights, and we'd have to shoot. It was like 1,000. It was like some crazy number of shots, and you could barely make out the rim, but it was like, it's not about if it's going in, it's just repetition. It's putting in the work. It's getting up shots, and because you can't like control whether it's going in or not, but like that you're just getting those reps, and then always that next week or whatever would just be like on fire, just because it's clearing out all the things that get in our way.
Sure.
I think, and so that really kind of stuck with me as what it takes when you're undersized, underskilled in that. And so I think coming into Los Angeles, being not underprepared, not going to film school, not having a contact that I could ask for that job or get in, I think it's that going to the gym when no one's working and no one's doing it, and reading the pilots and getting my hands on the keys to the gym and reading all those and doing that work. I think
that's amazing.
And then also not being humble enough to know that you do have to start at the bottom, and you can take pride in that without that getting in the way, you know, and would, and so never had a bad attitude about doing the shitty stuff. And I think even now maintaining that, that type of attitude has benefited just how I'm on shows, I think, and things people have said back in terms of working with me, and from other departments understanding how it all works, being a PA for so long, and production assistant, and starting at the bottom and understanding what happens when we turn a script in, all the things that then have to happen, and acknowledging that it does take all of us. It is this big team.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're nailing it. I mean, ultimately, starting at the bottom, there's a lot to be said for that, right?
For sure.
My mentor, hopefully will come on the show sometime. You know, he taught me that early on, right? I think he started himself as like just a mop boy that would mop the stages.
Yeah.
But he said, Mike, here's the thing. When you start from the bottom and you get to the top, no one can take anything from you because you've done all the jobs.
Yeah.
And you know, that's in any job, I would say, or any career, right? If people start from the bottom and they rise to the top, there's not one person underneath you that will ever be doing something that you haven't done or that you're willing to do.
And then you understand too how to manage.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as a writer, because you go write a script and then you're the boss of 500 people.
Dang,
and so if you don't have an understanding about what their job is, I feel like there's a lot of pushback a lot of times with showrunners.
How do you keep morale up with 500 people? How do you like keep people motivated?
You have the benefit of, I feel the majority of people didn't move here and settled to work in this business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are so self-motivated to be able to do this job, you know, in every department, because it's, I feel like everyone probably had a bunch of people saying, oh, it's so hard, why would you go do that? But it's taking that shot and going, as opposed to doing the job that you kind of was safer or settled into. So I think, I don't know, I've been really, I think, inspired by the people I've been, you know, lucky to work with from across the board in all the departments that really do show up and pull off these amazing things every week.
Would you say network is huge for you? As you meet these people, like in different jobs and different shows and all that kind of stuff, do you stay pretty close to a lot of people?
Yeah. I think in a very genuine way, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's you spend so much time with these people, and I've been really lucky to be like on shows with really amazing people, and so you do form these kind of bonds with them, but that it's always organic to those friendships, as opposed to what they can do for you, or, you know, it's like, 'cause you can see that a lot too, where making those connections based on networking or that kind of stuff, that doesn't feel genuine. And so it's sifting through that for sure.
Nice. Yeah. You know, because we do have a financial aspect of this show. Was money ever a motivator for you?
Yeah, I think, and just in that, coming in every day as a production assistant and living off of that, and, you know, living on top ramen and eating all your meals at the show, and craft service was such a great,
all the freebies.
Resource. Yeah, it was so great, you know, to be able to have that, and then seeing what that thing you're shooting for and obtaining, like driving scripts around to all these houses of the writers and actors, was like, man, so that was inspiring in terms of like a goal of being able to have that kind of financial success. And then I don't know, I think initially thought that financial success would bring comfort in relaxing a little bit, but I think it just actually drives me more, as opposed to being like, okay, now I can like take a deep breath, but it just
never feel like you get ahead.
Yeah, no,
you
no,
never.
it's, yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Biggie said it best: more money, more problems.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, like at the end of the day, it's like I always feel like I'm always like a hamster in a wheel, just like, oh, you can't get enough. You got to keep going, keep going. Yeah. You know, is that kind of what you're saying? Like, I know what you're saying too, because we're in the same industry, right? So as a PA, you know, when I had to deliver tapes to directors and people, it's really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it was, you know, I was inspired by it. You show up at their house and they have a gate. Where I come from, no one has a gate. I'm like, dang, I need a gate.
And then also appreciating it too, like knowing how lucky we are to be in this business, and that it can go away, and so it's just kind of constantly pushing to continue, I guess.
We're very fortunate. You know, we live and work in like such a fun environment.
And that's the thing too, is finding something that you love doing, is that there's a price on that. There's a number on that financial success, which is joy in what you're doing. I think has a number as well. And I feel like showing up and having that, it's chasing that as opposed to a financial number.
I think I know what you're saying. Like happiness has a number on it, right?
For sure. And like
and
the
family,
job you're doing.
And everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be real money.
Right.
Like, you know, freedom. You can't put a price on freedom. Freedom is like the ultimate, to me, the ultimate financial freedom and everything. Like just the freedom to do what you want when you want it. Spend time with your family, the people you love. You know, we're here for a short time, so it doesn't have to be money oriented. I think we had another interview that's coming up, and they touched on something which was really interesting, right? And it was you don't have to make a ton of money to be rich, or you don't have to make a ton of money to get ahead. You just have to understand how to manage it, right? You can make minimum wage and manage it properly, and live a lifestyle that fits within those means, and you'll be fine. So it's pretty cool. That's I learned from everyone. I love learning from this. I mean,
that's just, and I think, I don't know, I feel like spoiling along the way too, and it, I don't know, like we talked about, like that we have a lot of expensive hobbies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's that balance of being smart, but then also enjoying it along the way as
Yeah.
well, I think.
Yeah,
is important.
yeah. I mean, one of the things we talked about off camera
Yeah,
was
yeah.
our love for shoes, right?
Right.
And I said I think I bought every pair of shoes I couldn't afford or have when I was a kid because now I can.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something that motivated me to try to make some money because I wanted all these cool shoes.
Yeah.
Right. And I was fortunate enough to have, not all of them, but
Yeah.
quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And it brings me joy.
Same. I think that's what it is. It's like success can be defined in a lot of ways in financial success, but it is like having those moments of joy, whatever that number is, whatever that thing is that comes with success, I think is a huge motivator. For
Right.
me.
Would you change anything in your path? Would you change anything or
I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like mistakes or bad situations, I think, helped prepare me after that moment. And so I don't know that I would change it because I feel like those things are kind of put in our way to help us grow and be better so they don't happen again, or so you learn that lesson and can benefit from it. Yeah, so I don't know changing anything. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Most people
Yeah.
don't want to change anything because exactly what you would touch on right there.
Yeah.
Like you learn from your mistakes, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, ideally, I don't make any mistakes would be
Perfect.
great. But
Yeah.
I think then would I be prepared to handle that different moving forward? I don't know.
right. Yeah. We learn from our mistakes
Yeah,
as long as
yeah.
as long as you can mentally not let them get you down.
Yeah, that's the
right.
thing,
And
yeah.
you can say, hey, let's look at the positives of these mistakes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
failed. If
Right.
you want to call it a failure, I
Yeah.
don't like saying failed because it's a negative term.
Yeah.
But if you look at it and go, I've made these mistakes. Now, what are the positives in those mistakes, and how can I apply them moving forward so I don't make them again?
Yeah.
Just make stronger.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so too. And I
Who
think
knows?
serving enough coffee brings down your expectations of what happiness is at a job. Because it does feel like I'm doing this thing that I worked so hard to get to, and appreciating it in a way that's like it's hard to have bad days. Like it's a, as you know, difficult job and there's challenges, but that's also the fun of figuring out solutions to that as well, I think.
Right on. Right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have any advice that you could give, anyone out there that's trying to pursue or go after a dream? Do you have anything, to share advice wise or that you've learned, like taking hard knocks? Like, do you have anything? I don't know.
I think the fridge feels like a big
Yeah.
thing to tackle.
Yeah. I did the fridge. I didn't tell you, but I
that's
did the fridge and I did windowsills. So after I
That's
did the
next level.
fridge,
Oh.
I'd walk around the office.
Like washing windows?
Just the sills.
Whoa.
I would do the windowsills because
Yeah,
they get dusty.
sure.
So I'd walk in everyone's office because they were executives, and I'd do windowsill cleaning.
Oh, that's maybe.
You're laughing over there.
big.
What'd you do? I know you did something,
I
George.
mean, I'm just a sidekick over here, but I did have a question to ask you.
Yeah.
Mike always gives me a hard time because I'm listening a lot over here.
Sure.
I'm staying away from the convo for a reason,
Yeah.
right? But some of the things I'm gathering that I resonated with is when you were basically saying plan A and plan B. With your industry or being an athlete or an actor, anything in art, sports, it's like such a sliver of a percentage
Yeah.
to actually make it.
Yeah.
So when you said there is no plan B, it's exactly how I felt. And you have to be that way, and everybody goes, you're nuts.
Yeah.
If you're never going to make it. But what they don't understand is you have to be completely obsessed in this industry because you're not going to make it otherwise. And then also having the passion to back it up.
Yeah.
Because if you're not fired up on it and that's your life, you won't make it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
You'll give up.
Especially in this industry, like
Yeah.
as you guys know, the hours and the
Oh, yeah.
demand
Oh,
and
yeah.
what it actually takes. It's kind of perceived as, oh, it's so fun and it's all this, and it is, but it's also incredibly high pressure and the stakes are so high on delivering
Yeah.
across every position you're in, and so if you don't have that mentality, it's tough to kind of make it. I think
It was. You probably got it too. Early on in my career, my friends early in my career thought I was just partying with like celebrities.
Oh yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you got the greatest job ever.
Yeah.
I wish I had it. Like, you're just partying with celebrities."
Yeah.
I'm like, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sleeping. I'm not making any money.
Yeah.
I'm eating craft service to
Right.
survive.
Yeah.
Ramen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I once saw this interview. It was, Samuel Jackson was asked, what is more difficult, to be an actor? Let's just loop in the whole entertainment industry, or an athlete. He goes, athletes have it way easier. And they're like, why? If you're really good, you're exceptional.
Yeah.
You're going to get a big contract. You're going to be successful. But you can be the best writer in the world, best actor in the world, and never get a shot.
Yeah.
In what other industries like that? It's very rare that you, just because, is that there's so much talent, or, I mean, what's the reasoning for that? That it's just so hard.
I think it's because you see Jordan walk into a gym. It's undeniable. It's math. It's like, of course, 2 + 2 is 4. I think in our field, you could read something of mine and not get it at all, and just, it's like, I don't like this. It's not good. And you could read it and like, this is the best show I've read.
Yeah.
It's just so subjective, and so I think like it's so hard to define what talent is.
Yeah.
Because it's just I don't know. It's tough. I think sports is so obvious that someone's talented, and
You're good or you're not.
you see it, and it's compared to everyone else, they excel. And I think with writing in our field and acting, it's, especially for actors, seems even more complicated, where you're constantly redefining what good is because you're now playing someone else, is amazing to me. And you meet so many successful people being here, and you realize the work that goes into having to constantly change sports and be a different athlete for every job, and writing too. And I think is the fun of it too, is being able to not every day go into the same job, but you're jumping from shows and there's new challenges, and now you're writing different characters, and is the challenge, but also the fun of it too.
Do you get writer's block?
I haven't.
No?
Till now, probably.
Sorry.
You put
Sorry.
it in my
Oh, no.
head.
Wait a minute.
You can blame it on me.
Because you put it in my head. No, I think, I don't know if, at Desperate Housewives, we would write so much, and every day you would be asked to go write a scene, as opposed to some shows, the writer goes off and writes the whole episode and then brings it back to the other writers. But there, all of us would write on each episode a scene or a storyline. And so I think doing that for 7 years and getting those reps, and just the pace of that show was so fast, that for me has always just been visualizing what the scene is, and just almost like writing down what I'm watching in a weird way. But
Is it a really tight knit team when you're writing? Or is it a bunch of you that are kind of working together on the same episode?
Yeah.
So you're not just kind of off on your own.
It depends. The range of how shows are run has been different on every show I've been on.
Okay.
In terms of whether everyone is working together on a script, or the writer goes off on their own.
Which do you
to
prefer?
write. There's something nice about going off for a week and writing and picking the order that you write the scenes in. But then, I don't know, there is something great about the collective, again, the team aspect of, I think I'm hired for a type of writing that I do, and then the other people on the staff are also hired for an exceptional thing that they bring to it. And I think there's benefit to getting all of those voices in each episode, as opposed to just the one episode you write or I write.
Right.
So I do like a version of gathering all of those voices together, and then ultimately kind of giving it back to the writer to pick and choose what they want to use, maybe. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
So there's a collaboration.
Yeah, no, it's just I think everyone brings such an interesting perspective and voice to it. I think to
So interesting.
push those away, I think the show.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, I'm mainly a budget guy. I mainly
Right.
do contracts and budget.
Yeah.
Right? I do the least fun portion of this. Like, the most non-creative portion, if you will.
Crucial.
But like you just said, I kind of mixed with budgeting, right? Like I love to go. I used to leave the office completely, and I would go to a hotel and write a budget.
That's how I write.
Yeah,
like on show. I'll go write.
We have so many similarities. It's wild.
Weird.
But yeah, so I'd go to a hotel where no one knows where I am, and it's very quiet, and I can totally like focus in on it.
Yeah.
And then I would come back similar to what you said, and then I would collaborate with like accounting, and I'd look at other reports and P&Ls and all these things, and I'd cross compare what I wrote to see, you know, how it lines up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of how I work too. Yeah. But I love the collaboration aspect of it because I like when people cross check and question.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm doing money.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing I think for us to have that opinion or voice, because it is subjective. And then also when you're showing up to set, that you've had those conversations with the writer's room. So when the actor is like, I don't understand why this is happening, or why I wouldn't say that, or, you know, you've explored and can articulate why you made those choices, to because I think then throughout the process, it's everyone weighing in on how it applies to them, whether it's wardrobe or makeup, but that everyone is looking at the script and bringing their thing to it, that it's being open to those changes on the day, where an actor's like, I would say it like this, and then being able to, like, yeah, well, that's the same thing, so if it comes out of your mouth better, let's do that, or you know, but being open to that too, and not being so much like, no, this is what it is. Again, it's just that team mentality, but and it's fun too. It's like the process of making this thing that we're all kind of crafting and putting together.
Yeah, it's a collaborative effort. I mean, that's again another facet of life. You know,
right?
You're stronger. You know, I always think you're stronger in your team. Right?
Yeah.
Like even the team here, like you being on the show, George being the sidekick, and Dave behind the camera.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of talked about it, and like we're the CEO effect, right? And the creative, the executive, and the Olympian.
Yeah. No, but I think it's also I think a big, like a really important piece of it too is who you surround yourself with. Like,
right,
huge. You mentioned your partner Dave. I think there's a day-to-day, you know, interactions and exchanges that do inspire me, and it's just like surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are also incredibly driven and have a mentality that is positive in a situation where there's a lot of negativity, because it's so difficult to kind of constantly get hired, because we are on a show and then that show goes down and then it's the next thing. And so it's you need, I think, those people around you that are keeping you focused on staying positive and not letting those no's get in the way of just understanding, okay, that show was, you know, that didn't happen, but there's this other thing, you know. And so I think that's a big part of it too. And then just seeing success of people around you too is motivating, and like seeing Basecamp, you know, explode and do what you guys are doing here is inspiring to doing that in my own career, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always say, you know, you find that core, right, and you ride with them, because, you know, you just ride with them because they're the ones that, you know, will pick you up when you're down, and vice versa. You'll pick them up when you're down, and you know who you can call. You always need to find those people you can call on, I think, right, that you can trust. Like, it sounds bad, but like, you know, if I'm stuck somewhere at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., you know, I have a handful of people I would call. Everyone else, I'd be like, there's no way. They won't even answer their phone. Yeah. George won't answer his phone either because he'll be sleeping.
Oh. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm always I'm like his therapy dog.
Yeah.
You know
Sidekicks are like there, I feel like, when you need them. That's the whole the gig, I think.
Except with my you can turn off the notifications now.
Oh, you hit
those
that.
are great.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the person can see that you've turned it off.
I mean,
that's like the warning. Like, don't text me.
I see that all the time. It's like driving with focus on. That guy back there behind the camera, like, silenced this guy over here. I'm like, I just override it. Buzz them anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I think these kids should all have drive manuals now. Like, when my daughter gets a car, I'm like, I'm going to get her a stick.
Yeah, so they can't even mess with their phone as they're driving. You know, she's got to be working the clutch.
Yeah.
And exactly.
I'm serious. I think it's a comeback for the manual.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
That-
like
yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. I really
Yeah,
do.
no, it's-
You know, it's been awesome, and it's kind of almost like scary how many similarities we have.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
it's
refrigerator thing will ride with us every time I see it.
think
I'll bring
so.
up the
I
refrigerator.
know.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything else that we should touch on or talk about, or are we good?
I always have one more.
Yeah.
Oh
no, yeah.
boy,
It's so
Yeah.
here's the fun
does
part
this
about
every
sitting
time.
in this spot
Sure.
every time.
is that you just get to listen.
Yeah.
Right. And but my biggest thing is hearing you talk, and I listened to another podcast you were on. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, how many books have you read? Because you sound before you answer the question.
Yeah.
You sound like you've read 10,000 books, and I'm like, I want to sound like that when I'm on the phone to a client, or maybe when I'm the radio co-host, sidekick, whatever, and those types of things. I want to know, like, how did you develop into this?
That's the nicest thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I don't know. I feel like
Okay, that I have a chance.
for reading, I don't know. It seems like I read in free time so many scripts to just
there you
constantly
go.
be
So
trying
you're
to
reading,
understand
yeah.
like what they're buying right now, or discovering interesting ways to do this formulaic job differently. Like, oh, that's such a cool way to do that, or that structure is amazing. So I feel like that sitting down to read, to relax, or it's I'm using that time to either
Right.
be writing my own stuff and working on
Right.
on creating pilots, or reading someone else's.
But where did you get the ability? Because in again, I don't know your business
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
But if I'm a 17-year-old kid, or I'm a 15-year-old kid, and I want to be a writer in Hollywood, and I just don't read, and I'm like, well, how are you going to be able to put it on? Don't you have to understand language extremely well before just to put it on
Maybe.
paper? And I don't know.
There's something about, I don't know. I'm an observer of people, and I think that's what you bring to writing in TV or characters, because you're having to change the voice of each person talking, and so I don't know. And I think just being interested in how people interact in that has always just been, and for sure love being around a lot of people, and I think with COVID and separating from that, I really saw the effects of it. It was like, oh shit, I didn't realize how much I feed off that and get motivated by that. But yeah, and my dad, who's a professor, will love that you said that about reading, because I was always like growing up, like wasn't allowed to watch TV.
Well, that's where so you did do some reading,
Kind of, but like where the way our house was situated, I could hear them coming down the stairs, and so would have a book like on my lap, and would have time to turn the TV on. But then was always, if it's nice out, go outside
Sure.
and shoot hoops or go play, and then if not, you're reading. And so certainly I don't know, it's always more just reading other pilots or interviews about how someone came up with this thing, or
Right. Yeah.
trying to find little ways to get better, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because when I heard you talk on the other podcast, and then now listening to it, I was like, I want to sound like that, because you have a certain, and certain people rush their speech,
Right.
or they'll rush to answer the question. You have a really good pause, and that's, I don't know.
I think too,
I'm
like
in-
a product
it's
of
different.
being in rooms where there's 12, 15, 10 people all trying to speak or solidify their position on the show and be valuable, and trying to, there's like a pace to that, and the ability to be in a room and not get in the way at times, or know when to pull back and when to listen and when to talk. And so I think like reps on that certainly
That's cool.
benefit that maybe, but you know,
He's reading the room.
Yeah.
the room. But I think that's the big advice too, is
Sure.
reading the room. And because I think especially being an assistant for so long, is wanting that break, but reading and seeing people like push for that when they maybe hadn't necessarily done the work prior, and you see that reaction. It's like, oh shit. And I think it's like just constantly being aware of your surroundings as much as possible. I'm sure there's so many times where someone else watching would be like, oh, that guy's an idiot. Or, you know, and I'm sure make those mistakes all the time. And so hopefully having the want to be aware of those moments as much as possible, maybe cut down on some of them. But because like I said, it's so subjective to, it's not math. And so being aware of that stuff is so important, I think, you know.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask that too, because in Mike's career, he doesn't have to be creative. He has, I mean, creative to juggle the finances, but his work is determined by the margins or whatever. Like, you have to make this show great with X amount of millions of dollars. And as long as he does that and he's hitting the metrics for everything and making everything work, and he puts in all the hard work, I can see the career path, not subjective, just climbs the ladder and works hard and constantly delivers on a budget with these, I don't know, over $3 billion that he's managed. And then someone like you, the analytics behind building an episode, airing it, and how are you determined as, hey, Jason, we want you to write another one? Like how do you determine, you know, the back end analytics of what is a good episode and what's not?
I think a couple things. It's an understanding that there's someone out there having to write that check for what you're writing. And I think, again, putting in the work and having the foundation of understanding what that one line of dialogue costs. Or you're writing a scene in a location and it's only a page long, and then you're saying that's going to cost that much, and we have to do a location move, so we lose a half day getting the crew there. So I think it's acknowledging and understanding what you're writing is efficient and shootable, and that those things, that thought goes into it.
Yeah, he has to take all that into consideration.
Yeah.
He has to he can go rogue and write whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it's not affordable, like he said, he's probably only kind of hurting himself, depending on it's balance.
Yeah.
Right? Life is about balance. And it's about balance in my position, his position. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like he has two masters. He has the creative master and he has the finance master, right? As do I. You know, for me, from this side, I always tell creative producers, right? I've produced the show before you've even thought of the show, because I get very limited information.
Yeah.
And then I need to tell a network how much it's going to cost before a script is really written.
Yeah.
And it's like a mere guess. And so I turn in this budget, not being creative.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here's what it's going to cost. And then he comes along and he has to write it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what are you writing?
Yeah.
It's going to cost a fortune. That's
I think it's
twice.
a lot of those kind of conversations where you're like, oh, well, it doesn't have to be on the helicopter for a couplet. Like, that can take place here. Or, so I think, and then also, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's a mentality, or a lot of other writers think this way, but I don't think there are certainly those episodes of our favorite shows that you're like, that episode was so good. And then you also have to know if that was just that one writer that went off and did that, or if that was the group of them writing on that episode. And so I think that success for me has always been defined as more not episode 107 was so good, but that show was good. I think that's how people kind of talk about the work, is that show was so good rather than that episode or writer, you know, and
more so now, I think. More so now than ever, because with streaming and the more traditional ways things were, Nielsen ratings basically were calculated. I think more so than ever, it's more about that was a great series, or that was whether it rates or it doesn't rate, it was really good. Yeah, because kind of what you guys touched on earlier, like it's also subjective. Like,
you never quite know what's going to hit, and so it's also interesting balancing success being defined by how well a show does, because regardless if everyone's watching or no one's watching, the job is exactly the same. If you've heard of it or not, that job of going in and writing and coming up with stuff and shooting it and making it is the same. So it's just it's hard at times to define what success is, because it is by viewers and how well a show's doing. But I've been on shows that felt just like we're making something great here, and didn't necessarily have the numbers and those. So it's like finding those wins as well without getting caught up in it's this amazing hit or it's not. It's because to me, I think it is that job that brings so much joy, and that's the success, I think, is doing it. So not getting caught up in that. I mean, it's fun to be on the larger hit shows for sure.
Of course,
it's like, but and there's more. It's like it is a thing. Like it's for basketball. You're playing on the Lakers. It's like that. It's a different thing than playing in a small market, I would imagine.
Sure.
Even though the job's the same,
right.
So it definitely brings more pressure and higher stakes, I think, and maybe even more competition to land.
More pressure too.
Some pressures, but
pressure.
But if you can kind of like shed all of that away and just know that the job's the same, regardless, and just appreciating it, I think helps get rid of all that noise too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. I love this conversation.
I mean, so with the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing, you see something and it'll be 94% for the audience,
right?
And then whoever the Rotten Tomato folks are, it's a very different score and much lower potentially.
Right. Yeah.
As a consumer, wouldn't I just look at the audience score? Is that? It's like you're doing this when like it's one of the most popular shows, let's say, and then you look at and then the discrepancy is so much different, and then like it'd be a higher score, and then maybe so it's kind of I don't know.
Even like with Barbie and feeling like the snubs of not getting nominated for all this stuff and seeing how well it did. It's like, what is success defined by? Like, is it that box office number?
I would think,
or
so,
is it more nuanced than that? And I don't know the answer, but it's hard to define.
My personal opinion on that is less and less about the box office number, right?
Yeah.
I think what we do, the industry we're in, it's changing so rapidly. I feel like those kind of older ways that define success are kind of dissipating a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything from them, but I think there's a newer acceptance for, like you said, Barbie. Like, oh, they got snubbed, or they didn't get all these traditional things that people would once have said. Yeah. Unless you have that, you're not a success, right? Yeah. But I think it's just like TV, right? TV and all the social media and all this stuff. I think everything's kind of getting a little bit mixed up, which is fun at the same time. But to me, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, to be honest, especially when you're somebody who's made their living in traditional television for so long. But that's why we're actually here.
Yeah, I know.
We're trying to do something that's a little more, for the lack of better, new age. I know it's not new age, but this is what people are doing now. Yeah, this is it. Yeah. So, I appreciate you sharing your story, man. I really do. Coming in here, and we it's not like we have a big podcast following at the moment, and you're one of the first we brought in. So really,
to do it.
You kind of jumped in and you've been awesome. Oh, so cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I really don't have anything else. I mean, I could go all day, but I don't I don't think we could post something that's 8 hours long either. So again, Jason, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your story. You know, I'm sure there's takeaways that people will have. You know, there's a lot of little good diamonds in there that you gave us, and you know, I guess I owe you some Jordans.
Yeah, can't wait.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for having us.
We need to tell people to subscribe, support us, and subscribe. You know, make sure you turn the bell on for notifications.
Yeah.
Right,
There you
George?
go. That's a
There
good
you
job.
go.
Good
I think
job.
people say smash that like, but like,
There you
Just
go.
what Jason said.
I feel like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Smash that like.
I think that's a thing.
He knows more than I do.
I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I feel
No,
like
I
that's
love
a
it. Smash the like, turn on the notification
Sure.
bell, watch us, support us. Thank you for watching, and you know, we'll probably have you on, you know, episode 170.
Love it.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks again, Jason. That's our